So, hello everyone. My name is Dinko. Welcome to the first podcast here for One Tap LAN. I'm joined here by Dean O'Brien or Dean Cass, fellow caster and also player for Cyclone XDEG. Along with him is Jester, obviously his teammate as well, and also Alan Kelly, owner and founder of One Tap LAN. So we're going to have some insight into the behind the scenes of the event organization and stuff, and also Calvin Hines. There's too many teams to go over for Calvin. I think he changes like every week, so we'll keep Calvin on board with whatever he's got now. So he's going to be playing for Eclipse into the LAN. And I guess we'll just set the scene straight off the bat with talking about the clear favourites coming into this event. Is obviously going to be the Nobody side. They've come into this one with a pretty strong lineup. There are a few teams there like Different Gravy who can put some numbers up against them. So let's say, like, what are your guys' thoughts coming into this one? Do you kind of agree with that, or do you think we're kind of overhyping Nobody's a little bit too much?
Who do you want to start? Will I go first? Okay.
Of course.
Yeah. So Nobody's is obviously on paper you'd see that they are probably the strongest roster. Windansky, Connor, and Cinder. Fucking you've seen him in Gfinity, Laney qualifying for MDL, but unfortunately getting kicked out of his roster of Asterion. And then Neeks is just that fella that goes on every Nobody's roster. Like he's just I don't know the fill-in player. I think we could see another win by Different Gravy if they remain composed. But also players like fucking I don't know Dead Elm Game, they actually are putting in some work behind the scenes, and
Yeah,
I
right
actually
now.
think any one of them teams could do it.
I mean, Neeks is that sort of he's that sort of support player. I would say. I mean, you've got really star players. Like you got a lot of fragging power on that, and I feel like when you come into these lands, a lot of the teams don't have sort of the fundamentals. So teams that do have such star power, like the Nobody side, it's going to be very difficult for some of the smaller teams coming in this one. It's obviously some of the players' first LAN events, so they're going to feel that pressure, especially going up against veteran players. Who, I think one of the players who was Windansky's actually played since 2012, so he's had a very long sort of career in CS, which is going to be a bit disorientating when coming into some of the younger players. And I mean, Jester, you've had a bit of a long term in CS as
Yeah.
well, playing a few teams. So have you ever felt the pressure? Have you ever played against this roster?
Um, I mean, my first ever LAN was G6, so it was in Croke Park, and I did play against I think it was Windansky at the time. And I mean, going in, I knew like they were the favorite. Well, I knew about the players, so I did kind of have this like I don't know, almost like fear of going up against them. Like, oh shit, like these guys are nuts, you know. And like we did get destroyed, but to be honest, like I feel for like most of the teams here are they're quite like good aimers. Anything can happen really. I feel like it all depends if nobody's actually practiced and run over stuff off like on a server offline, because I feel like if a prepared team comes along, they can easily be taken out. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, so like you said, nobody's might come into this without any strategy, or they just might think it's going to be a walk in the park, and then could end up getting upset by a team like Different Gravy, or even smaller, like yourself. Cyclone are obviously, I would say, a dark horse in this tournament. You just obviously had some good results, a lot of good players on there as well. And coming into this one, nobody's obviously has sort of that, they all have very, I wouldn't say egos, but a lot of strong personalities within the group. So if they do get upset by a team, that could start to affect the mentality of the group, make them start to break down in communication and stuff. So that could open up a little bit more of a wound, a bit of a chink in an armor that some of these smaller teams can start to work away at. And I think also I see Tobin going past in the chat there, and he was playing for Nobody's in the last LAN. So I think, Dean, did you go up against Nobody's in the last LAN, or?
Yeah, we did, and it did not go so well. We actually lost. I believe it was actually the game just after we had beaten Acquire.
Oh, he wasn't.
Which LAN?
No, Tobin was on Princesses, right? I just messed that up.
Tobin was on Princesses. Yeah,
yeah,
nobody's was
mistake made. But it wasn't as strong. It wasn't as strong a roster as this. I mean,
no, this nobody's is definitely the strongest nobody's we've seen. We have a Laney in there as well now, but at points we haven't actually had all three of Cinder, Connor, and Wendansky on the roster. I believe they did it not at the last land, the one before that, I believe. And yeah, they didn't. This is definitely the strongest one anyway. Whose spot would Laney be taking right now? Because it kind of swaps around, doesn't it, after the main two or three?
I think some of the Nobody's players were in the Gfinity Cup at the time, because I remember a few of the players or down at the hall were actually watching it live, I think. So that could have been the reason why some of the players were absent, but it was definitely a weaker roster that did allow for, different gravy to go and take that. So my bad about Tobin. Obviously a bit of a mistake there. I get ridiculed in the chat right now. But you got some other teams there like Kiddie Pool as well. Complex is on that side. He's Vive making his first LAN appearance as well. Azza, I have to say I've not heard of Azza at all really. So I'm actually interested to see him play. And Complex went up in a team, I don't know what they were called, but it was Mixers, was it? Or something along those lines. They played the last LAN. They went out winning a single map. So they're going to be looking to try and get themselves sort of another win under the belt, hopefully. And Calvin, this is your first one-tap LAN, I'm saying, yeah?
Yeah, this is my first one-tap LAN, my third actual LAN. My reputation upholds me from my first LAN, which was G Series 8. It was like fucking DMG. I'm not too far off it now, but I just had a really bad fucking LAN for my first LAN. I wasn't prepared at all. I didn't have the hours put in, but for this LAN, I can tell you, I'm gonna put in the hours and I'm gonna be fucking ready when it comes to it.
Yeah, so you feel a lot more confident with this new team, Eclipse? I've seen some of your tweets.
Yeah, like a lot of the lads are concrete lads. Raycal is a young fragster, only 17, and I swear he could knock the head off any of the lads in this room. But our main gunner would be Decodia, also known as Liquid. He was neck and neck for a while for first place on FACEIT against Connor. He's not there anymore though. He's after losing a few games in a row, but Decodia would probably be, in my opinion, probably one of the strongest riflers in the Irish scene. Just nobody knows who he is yet. And I tell you, once he goes to this land, shows off what he has, people will be wanting him.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think Sonny was like that, I think, as well. He kind of just broke on. I never really seen him, and it started suddenly people started getting that sort of perception that he's a really good player. I think he's going to, was he meant to go to LAN? I don't know which team he's on, but I heard something about him going to the LAN. I don't think he's on this list, but yeah, he's one of those types of players as well. So it's interesting. I've never heard of Liquid. I don't even think I've heard of Keto either. So how's he?
Keto's a UK player. Only picked up recently, but he just fits in really smooth. The one thing that we're doing, I was saying to you before we started this, that our fundamentals were off when we were practicing. So at the moment, we're giving up, not scrimming rather, but we're giving up practicing individual maps, and we're just going into our fundamentals rather than.
All right, rip. I suppose we can talk about Dean and Jester's team then. So you guys recently just, got a new org, you're rebranding under Cyclone. So talking about your team a little bit, how do you feel coming into this event? Are you feeling confident? Which teams do you think you can do a lot of damage against? And what's your goal coming into this event?
Do you want to take this away, Dean, or?
I'll let you take it since you're the IGLers.
Yeah, we're feeling pretty confident at the moment. I mean, we're going over and preparing a lot of maps at the moment. We're kind of getting a feel for how each other play. It's my first time actually IGLing at a LAN, so this is it's kind of like a new experience for me. So we're hoping to do pretty well at this LAN. Like, I mean, we're not really afraid of many teams here, to be honest. We're going to try and do our best. I mean, we're looking more towards the long run, like with Raid coming up and everything like that. We're just constantly trying to improve and get better, watching demos, seeing how we play, how we can improve. But I definitely think we're getting better every day we prac, and I feel like we can easily take out any team on this list.
So that's actually an interesting point. You say you practice all the time, and that's something I feel that the Irish teams lack a lot. Some of the teams just don't practice. They just feel as they have these egos that they can just go in the event and just frag out. And I think that'll come back to bite them a lot of the time. And fair play to some of the teams who have actually tried some strategy. A lot of the time, it does break down, and I feel like that is a huge issue. Would you sort of agree being an IGL for a team, does strategy matter too much?
Yeah, what I've noticed is from all the LANs I've been to, the reason why many teams don't practice is because they just end up like disbanding right after LAN. The whole Irish shuffle after a LAN. And I feel that's just because of nobodies, because everyone sees nobodies. They come in, they don't prac, they're just 5 solid players, and they just dominate. And I feel like there's no team at the top that has been together for so long that makes everyone else go, oh shit, we need to prac. Because people go, oh well, nobody's is here. They're a mix, so why don't we just become a mix? And there's no like a proper team in the Irish scene that really kind of dominates. And I feel like that kind of needs to be put in place. Otherwise, everyone else is just going to mix a LAN for the rest of eternity, and it's just going to be a mix forever, But I don't know. I feel like there should be some kind of like heavy presence, I guess, of a solid team in Ireland. I think that would definitely help, and kind of bring the LANs back to more of a competitive stage. I remember before there used to be like 2 or 3 teams, even 4 that would prac and that would do all that. But now it just seems like, especially for this LAN, it just seems like there's a lot of mixes. I know teams are pracking and stuff like that, but not for very long, So yeah, that's my opinion anyway.
That's some good points. I mean, there isn't really a solid base of fundamental teams that do practice. They're an actual team. They stick together. They go to events. But I feel as though that's the way nobody's dominate. Dean, would you agree? Like, it's just because they're coming from a higher echelon of Counter-Strike and they're just coming down and using the fundamentals they've already got playing at a top level and bringing that to a scene where we have teams that don't have the basic fundamentals down.
Yeah, like these players from nobodies, they played in main. They're used to pretty much everything we could throw at them or even think. So going up against them is incredibly difficult because they have so much knowledge of the game and what not to do and when to aggress and when not to aggress, that it's very, very hard to counter. And it's almost like a no respect kind of thing with nobodies, where if they know your shit, like, no offense to some players, if they know you're not good, they're gonna abuse it. They're gonna rush and they're gonna make you feel like crap. Like somebody's running down mid and gets a 4K. That doesn't really make you feel great. And I feel like that's gonna be the same at this LAN. They're gonna do that to some teams, and it might put some people off. But that's where again it comes back to just having a solid team, and pracking and sticking with the same roster for an extended period of time, not just because somebody doesn't like this person and then they fuck off. And so I don't know. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, Calvin, also touching on what Jester just said about the lack of teams sticking together. Do you feel as though this team, I know you've had a bit of issues with teams sticking together, so do you feel as though this team has the potential to stay together for a long period of time?
At the moment, I'd say that we could. We're down to do the ESEA open season, and we've applied for an upgrade to ESEA intermediate. So it all depends on results at the beginning. That's what makes or breaks a team, in my opinion. And then, of course, LAN. Hopefully, we can get into the next day of LAN. Probably hit the semi-finals, and obviously our aim would be to win the LAN. But we're just going to take it step by step and see where we can get. Like, I'm not putting my team down at all. Like, there's only a few teams actually playing this LAN, if you get me. There's more mixes than there'd be actual teams. And at the end of the day, we're just playing against players. If you shoot them in the head, they'll die. Like, that's where I see it from.
Hopefully not in real life, but Kelvin.
Not yet.
Right, so Dean, you and Jester and a few of the other players on Cyclone have actually been playing with quite a similar roster, I would say, for quite a long time now under DEG, but now you've come into this one as Cyclone. You've got a couple of new players in there like Kaz. How's Kaz and the roster as a whole fitting together?
Yeah, I think the roster is actually meshing quite well together. We're working at the moment at getting the chemistry better between the players, because that's something we do lack. We have good games, but if we haven't played for a couple of days, then there's kind of like a massive difference between our performances. So we need to try and work on that, just make sure we always know what we have to do and stuff, and improve our CT sides in general, I think, is our main thing at the moment. But we're feeling pretty confident going into LAN. We know we still have another at least couple of weeks to improve our map pool even further, and it's been going well so far, so I don't see why it won't keep going well.
I got ridiculed again. It's Cass. I call him Kaz.
What do you call him?
All right, Cass. Right, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed good that you guys actually have a roster that's sticking together, actually working hard at a decent level as well. I mean, yes, you're going hopefully getting a place in ASCA main. That's kind of your goal, isn't it, for like close future?
Well, that's what we're going to aim for. Yeah, we have to start off from open, obviously, because it's in a roster in ESEA anyway. We had the old IM spot before me and N-Line were in it, but obviously that went inactive, so that died out. And yeah, right now our goal for the season is to hopefully get into main, but if not, IM will do. Like, we aren't going to stop playing or anything if we don't get it, but that's our goal, hopefully, to try and reach main. That's the challenge we've set ourselves to actually practice towards, give ourselves that motivation when we are playing, to realize that we're doing it towards something.
Yeah, I fully understand about that, but I think we're gonna leave the teams and the players behind for a little bit, and we'll actually bring Alan into it, because I feel like we've left him sitting there for about 20 minutes not talking. So now we get to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of how the One Tap LAN has progressed and some of the stresses that may go into the event. So pretty much, Alan, starting off, what is your sort of incentive for One Tap LAN? Like, why do you want to create this LAN?
Okay, well, basically, when I started this LAN, it was 4-team LAN. I decided I really wanted to have something. I was still big into CS playing it at the time, and I really wanted to have something where people could go play it. The only place you could do it was really G Series, and I went to one of those LANs, and it was the one in Croke Park, which, we all know the problems they had there. But basically, I just thought, why couldn't I do one myself? I mean, I just need a bit of equipment. Then I just need 4 teams to come. I'll just put up a post. First 4 teams who want to go to it, I'll take them in. We'll see what we can do and see if we can run a small LAN over one day, no delays, and just see what happens. And it did manage to get 4 teams. And then, of course, people were like, hey, why have you got these 4 teams? They're not the best 4 teams in the country. This is not going to be any good. So I got forced into doing online qualifiers, which were an absolute nightmare because I was the only one doing anything. I took on way too much myself. So I was trying to arrange all the games, take all the money. Actually, the online qualifiers were free for the first LAN. So I had to arrange all that, and then when it's free for people to sign up, they'll sign up, and then they're not bothered if they don't turn up. So it's like a disaster. To try and get people herding them all into qualifiers was a nightmare time-wise. I had to cast it, admin the games, hop around. It was just a nightmare. I was really sort of going by the seat of my pants. I didn't really know what I was doing, but we eventually got there, and the LAN went brilliantly from the one day. So I had never any intention of doing a second LAN. I just sort of wanted to do it and see if I could do it. And then I just thought, after a while, I thought maybe I'll go for another one and just see how that goes.
Yeah, it's a good event. I went to the first one as a spectator. I was pretty young at that time. I think I was like 15, 16 when the first event came out. So I went there as a spectator, actually, and I remember it was at the Ulster University, so it had 2 very small rooms. There was a couple of people attended. I think Ivanov. I didn't really know anybody in the scene at that point. I think I recognized Napchi as well. But when I went to the event, we were in like the spectator room was like in the left side of it, and then the right side was like the players' room, and it was kind of just a pretty small setup. I mean, there was a bit of lag on the stream and stuff, but when we came to the second one, it was just strange how it all just progressed massively. I think you got a lot more help from some of the community in the second one that helped bring it up a little bit. And obviously the change in venue was huge as well, because that space at the Jordanstown University is huge compared to the one in Belfast. Do you prefer that venue a lot more, or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's way better to have it out there for me. For the second one, I did have the same rooms in the Belfast campus booked, the same 2 rooms, but there's a wall that you can move back, so it would have been the 2 rooms together. But then it was double booked for some kind of music festival that was going on in the university, so there was like a huge stress to try and find a venue because people had signed up. So I was going around talking to all these venues in the background, how much does it cost to do this? can your venue hold, 45 PCs and all the power issues that came with that? And it was an absolute nightmare there for a week or two. Going into the second LAN was probably the most stressed I've been in my entire life, because doing all the qualifiers still, getting everything involved. But like on the actual day, it ran really well. I think I have to shout out Stuart and Daryl from NSG were a big help. Yourself on the casting, and there's a few other people I'm sure who turned up and helped that I can't just think of at the moment. Patton there doing the interviews was brilliant. I had such high hopes of what I wanted to do for the media side of the second LAN. I wanted to be doing video. I wanted to take photos, loads of photos. I wanted to do, so much. But then when you're actually there on the day, it's just really, really, the time just flies by. Like you're there 12 hours and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, the second event, was really smooth. I mean, there was barely any delays. We got all the teams smoothly playing. Everything was set up perfectly. So yeah, the second event was a really good success, I feel. And a lot of the teams definitely enjoyed the LAN. I hear a lot of the community saying it's their favorite LAN. So it's definitely doing a good job there as well. And I mean, Dean, since the chat is heckling me for you to talk now, I suppose I'll try and ask you a little bit of a question. So, how do you manage like playing and casting as a player, playing in a team that's practicing a lot? It's not a mix. How do you manage to cast and fit in the team practice as well? Is it a struggle, or you do it pretty easily?
Well, it's been pretty easy over the last couple of weeks, because with Christmas I haven't really done much casting at all, but it is definitely going to get harder, especially once the ACA season gets going, because we're going to be playing ourselves. And then I have the French and the UK team are both in ACA main. The UK one got given a spot in ACA main after qualifying for the Premiership. So I'm going to have a lot of games to cast, although I have brought you on. So I'll have 4 games a week to cast. If my game, I only have one to play. So if that ends up going over one of those, I guess I'll have you helping. You can hop in and do a cast. So I'll hopefully be able to get by just having some people help me out at points when I need it. And I'll probably just try and accept more morning casts, because I have been offered a lot of casts in the morning of like Asian teams, etc., say 7 or 8 in the morning, and that's actually pretty good. It's nice getting the Asian ones in. They're very, it's not, you don't see the same type of chat, you don't see the stupid spams and stuff. You kind of have people who actually talk to you. They're a little bit more communicative, even if they don't speak fluent English. They're still like, they're trying to be a lot nicer. They're trying to actually get to know you as a person, and I think it's really enjoyable when I get to cast those Asian games. So yeah, hopefully I can balance that still pretty well, because I do want to continue on playing, and I think at the moment this lineup we have could hopefully get pretty far. We're, as I said before, aiming for ACA main, and if we don't get that, we aren't going to end it or anything. We'll keep trying, but hopefully it's going to work out.
Yeah, I enjoy doing the Asian events as well. I did the GOTV.GG Invitational. I think you did one game of that towards the start of the tournament, and then I think I just took the rest of them up until the very end. We actually seen one of the players, the team, get VAC banned. No, they didn't get VAC banned. They got disqualified due to cheating. Apparently, they beat the Mongols. It was Team TNC. But yeah, I feel as though the Asian scene is actually a lot more chill than the EU scene. I get a lot of fans from that region actually, which was really cool to see. I enjoyed doing that event, but I can't actually do many of them just because I have to go to school in the rest of the days and stuff. So the early events are really annoying, because I'd love to do those as well, but sadly got some other commitments. But suppose we can go to Calvin. You actually wanted to start casting as well, didn't you, at one point? I mean, we casted one game for the Celtic Throwdown qualifiers, I think.
We did. I tried casting, and then I realized, like, I just have too much of a scumbag voice. Like, I literally sound like I'm flat out Ballymun.
Literally.
Yeah, like you can see. Exactly. And I don't know, it's something to do with me. My brain just doesn't think as fast for words. Like, when I was trying to cast with you, I found like I was coming to a blank a lot. So, I don't know, like, even now, I'm just kind of stuttering. I feel like Courtney.
So yeah, casting's not as easy as people sort of think it is. I actually have to shout out Alan for that. He kind of started my whole like casting sort of, I suppose you could call it career, because I just seemed like he was getting a lot of stress. Some of the games weren't being casted, and I felt as though I might be able to do a decent job of casting. So I hit him up and asked him, obviously, could I do one of the games for the One Tap League, and Eventually, I think Dean and Staples had to play a game, so eventually I got my chance to go on and do a cast. It went terrible. But the lag was unbelievable, the quality. But I think I would have quit at that point if it wasn't for Alan being so understanding, like telling me the casting was actually good, everything happens, it's all fine, and stuff like that. And everyone in the chat surprisingly was not toxic, which was good for helping me go further. So shout out to him as well. And then obviously Dean doing a few games with me as well. So yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. But I mean, Jester, we haven't talked to you in a while, so I suppose we can bring you up now. So some of you won Air Online 2, right? Was that, or was it the?
My team did. Yeah, I was in. Where was I? I was abroad.
Oh right, never mind. You were on Crimson, weren't you? All right.
Yeah.
All right, so I messed that one up a little bit then in the research. So is there any other events you've had or experienced that you'd like to talk about that has got you to this point? How long have you been playing CS:GO, I suppose?
Oh Jesus. I've been playing since competitively I'd say since G6. So I'm not sure when G6 was. Pretty sure it was 2012 or 2013, or it's around there maybe. I'm not sure. It's been about like 4 years I'd say, of playing CS. So yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. How many LAN events have you actually attended?
I think I've attended 5 at this stage. So I've been to G6, G8, G9, One Tap LAN 2, and Celtic Throwdown. So yeah, 5 LANs.
We don't speak a Celtic.
You don't speak of
We
Celtic.
don't we keep Celtic on the
Did you
lowdown.
play with Swaggy at that tournament?
Yeah, and I think they played my best LAN ever, but it wasn't enough to get a single map win. I'm pretty sure I dropped 2 or 3 30 bombs, like, and it just didn't go well. Jake had one of the worst Mirages.
I had
I've ever seen.
one
He
of
was
the
getting
worst.
baited so hard.
Yeah,
What a meme.
I had a very, very rough game. Almost like an MM game, where nothing's being watched and somehow you're knifed in the back. So yeah, let's not talk about that.
Did you attend GamerCon as well? Was that an
I
event?
didn't know.
Oh, so Dean, you actually attended that one? Am I correct?
Yeah, I did.
So yeah, I heard the horrors of GamerCon.
We had the game turned off on us twice mid match, so
that's not exactly the greatest competitive
oh
conditions.
no, GamerCon was a shit show, and the guy who ran it's a retard. That's all I can say. He's not smart.
Pew pew.
I have a friend who wanted to go down for the League of Legends, and he was getting ready to go. He paid for his transport, and then was told that I told him that he might not get in. I was just showing him the queues outside. Like, it's just crazy stuff. So unprofessional, but I think we'll move on.
Yeah, but that guy who ran GamerCon just isn't a nice person. I'm pretty sure I probably can't give the actual digit, but I've seen it. Raid showed me how much money they owe him, and it's 5 digits, like, so yeah.
That's crazy.
Jesus.
I suppose we can actually talk about Raid a little bit. Alan, do you feel as though the other LAN events in Ireland are sort of competitors, or do you feel as though being a CS:GO only LAN, you sort of have that advantage for your niche?
Well, I think every LAN event is going to be a competitor, but I also think since the country is so small, the island's so small, like there's no point in trying to go up against each other, if you know what I mean. Like I was constantly sort of talking to McDara, and I'm talking to Brian from Raid. I think I might be doing something with them in the summer. So there's your first scoop on that. But yeah, basically, finding out the dates that they're going to be having their events, and then trying to have mine spaced out, between those, so that like we're not taken away from each other. We're not having the same event. We're not having an event 2 weeks apart, that kind of way. So everybody can get in, because I think we both sort of have similar philosophies on, like, we need to make sure that the events are there for the players. Like, we want to put them on because we want the players to have a good time. Like, my whole thing was, when I started this, was because I wanted to get something as professional as possible for players to play in, for the guys who watch it all the time, who want to be involved in something as good as what they see on streams. And that's not 100. I'm not 100% there yet. I mean, we still have bits and pieces. Like in the second LAN, we weren't able to get ESEA or Faceit or anything outside of matchmaking working because we didn't have enough time. But we're going to go try and test that out and make sure we can get that working before the next one. And there's some other things like demos didn't record. It's just a case of making sure you can go through it and getting everything squared away and making sure everything turns out right. So basically, I'm looking forward to their LAN as well. I think I'll be going down as a spectator in March.
Yeah, what Raid are doing are really stepping up the bar of production, which is awesome to see. They're doing a lot of other games as well. They're doing like Overwatch, League of Legends stuff. So that's always interesting to watch that sort of scene, because I think that's really what we lacked was consistent LAN events. I think G Series was like the only consistent LAN event, and I was watching some of the streams. There was constantly delays, and the stream quality wasn't exactly the greatest. So I like to see that we've got a few different types of people now in the scene that are actually starting to help make it grow. It's obviously going to be a slow process because a lot of the events are done by like 1 or 2 people, so it's hard to really get a professional sort of event going, I suppose. I'm speaking from my mind. I actually have no experience in doing any of that, but
yeah, a lot of the things that that people don't realize are how much actual time goes into this. Like you think, oh, you just have to go and put up a ticket thing. People will buy the tickets and then they'll turn up on the day, no problem. But then you get people going, oh, I can't buy my ticket till next week, or I'll sign up here, but I won't actually put the money down. And then until they've got the money, you can't really figure out how much you're going to be paying out for a prize fund. You want to be given a big amount of money out for the prize fund, but you also want to save money back to be able to promote it and to be able to buy equipment for it. Like I spent probably 300 or 400 quid of the second LAN stuff on like networking equipment, media stuff, printing, advertising, just sort of things like that. So, and there's so much time goes into social media in general. Like people have to, you have to sort of be there all the time answering social media questions. You got to keep the website updated. You got to do everything, and it's a lot of hard work behind the scenes. It really is.
And do you get much help from some of the other people, or is it mostly just you running everything?
It's mostly me running everything. I mean, I do run everything. Like aside from being there on the day, I get help, but it's also hard to find people who have the same level of perfectionism that I have. Like, and I don't want to. It's probably something that I should do is like maybe release control of it or over it a bit to somebody else. But you really need somebody you can really trust when you're talking about stuff like money, and you're talking about stuff like your brand. And if you have a fallout with somebody who has access to your Twitter account, something could happen there. It's a really sort of gray area you have to be in. You have to make sure you're definitely on the same page. And I think it's better just to hold it all centrally for the moment until I can actually find someone like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand, like, fully, but have you ever like thought about getting volunteers? I'm sure there's some, like Stuart, shout out to Stuart. I'm sure he'd be trustworthy enough to help with some of the online stuff, but obviously he would be busy with his own organization and stuff. So it's a lot of the Irish scene is quite young as well, so you got a bit of unprofessionalism there as well, and a bit of trash talking and stuff. So is it hard to deal with sort of that younger style of people that are sometimes lackadaisical when it comes to sort of payments and keeping things up to date, etc.? Is it difficult to deal with those types of people?
It's hard to deal with, yeah. I mean, I do understand that these kids are, they're quite young, and I'm old, and I've been around since like I've played CS since it was like beta 6.6, like back when it launched, and I've played it for probably as long as some of these boys have been alive. So, it's it's hard to really remember what I was like back then, but I probably wasn't too much different. But everybody, this is going to sound like a really old man type of thing. Like, these kids have got everything now. We had to walk through snow both ways and all this sort of stuff. But like, the way CS is now, it's night and day from what we had to do to even get games. We had to have third-party servers, everybody had to have their own server. We had to go onto IRC to arrange games. You'd be spending all day sitting in IRC trying to get games with people. But now people can just jump straight on, jump into matchmaking or Face It or ESEA and play straight away. So I think because it's got the anonymous sort of way about it, where people can be rude to each other, they can flame each other, and then who cares? I'll just join the next game.
Yeah.
But the way it was, everybody knew everybody in the scene, and you would go to LANs and nobody would be dodging LANs. Everyone would be going, and the majority of them would be in Dublin. There was a few in Waterford I went to as well, and it was more of a community, I think, because people were just not flaming each other flat out, because they knew it wasn't anonymous. Like, they can't just go off and play by themselves. They had to actually have a team and be nice to people involved. And so I think it was a lot better then, but the technology has come way far forward. So if we had what we had then with what we have now, I think it would be perfect.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, you got so many toxic people in the community. There's quite a few known ones, but some of them actually come to LAN.
No names mentioned.
Yeah, no names mentioned at all. But has anybody else got any questions they want to ask Alan as well? Because I've been asking most of them. I'm sure one of you have sort of a question you're interested in that I haven't gone over.
Where's the closest pub to the LAN?
The closest pub is probably about 10 minutes walk or 5 minutes walk down the road. It's on the Shore Road. I think it's called...
it's more 15.
So probably probably about a 30-minute stumble.
It's a 15-minute walk. We done it when we were down there. All the shops are actually down about 15 minutes down the road. It's not too bad, but there's a bit of a walk for people who haven't been there before. But yeah, it'll be fun. There'll be loads of people going at once, and you kind of make the whole journey into a thing itself, and it'll just be a good time, as was the entire weekend, all of it. The days and the LANs and the nights where the alcohol was also very fun.
Yeah, I would recommend going into Belfast if you're going to go and do that. Get a taxi in.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to go drinking or whatnot. There is actually a shop in the accommodation area as well, so it's like 2-minute walk rather than having to go all the way down. But some people will be driving, I'm sure, and anyone can just hop a lift.
Home lifts, yeah.
Yeah, and there's deliveries. Just Eat deliver to the university if you want to, order food and stuff. And
lads, we're sorted.
People who are staying in accommodation have self-catering, so they've got ovens and fridges and all sorts, so you can do whatever you want there,
Yeah, it's pretty...
Not whatever you want, actually. Let me take it back. Don't do whatever you want there.
Don't be choke slamming people through ironing boards, right?
No.
Release the video.
We want to use this
if
event.
you're watching right now, please release the video. Come on, that video would actually go viral. I've seen it, and it's the best thing I've ever seen. For those who haven't heard about it, let me actually go ahead and explain it. Right, it starts off. Patton's in his room. It's about 4 a.m. All right, he's only in his underwear. Like, he just has his underwear on, walking around. He's kind of recording himself, and he's like, "Let's see what's going on down here in this room." He walks in, and there's probably about 10 people, all absolutely locked. Like NapJ, Dara, Martin, and all was there. All of them just there. They're all just they're all just messing around, and there's an ironing board that's being laid out as they walk in. I think it's Martin and Neeks go over and they start putting the ironing board up, and at the same time, who was it? Napj takes the phone off of Patton, gives it to someone who starts recording then, and Patton doesn't know what's going on. He's pretty drunk himself, so he's kind of just standing there letting this happen, and Napj just wraps his arm around his throat, walks him over and choke slams him right through the ironing board, and it shatters in half. So then the aftermath of the video is just Patton lying on the floor in his underwear, just has no idea what's going on, and just pieces of broken ironing board all around him.
It couldn't have happened.
Can I just stress? Do not destroy the stuff that's in the accommodation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that probably shouldn't have been done. And in fact, if there's a video of that I guess it's kind of a crime because it's not your stuff you're breaking. So yeah. Maybe don't release a patent, but you still should because it's hilarious.
It couldn't have happened to a more passive guy either. Patton's from interviews and stuff I've seen, he's really, I would say he just seems really docile and passive. So it's quite hilarious to happen to him. But Napji just, I think he just creates so many outrageous things at LAN. I heard some stuff about interviews and things at the last LAN. They were pretty R-rated.
Oh, we have a question in chat actually from Delwood. Did you have to pay for it, the thing that was broken? And if you did, how much was it?
No, I didn't actually have to pay for it. And a couple of people actually had forgotten their keys, or had forgotten to give back the keys, or lost their keys or something. So I did have to pay back for those.
No, how much was that?
It was a tenner per key, so I think there was 3.
Oh, okay. I remember giving mine
But,
back,
yeah.
so I didn't cause that. But whoever done that,
Yeah.
don't do it next time, because that's
Definitely hang on to your
unless
key.
unless it's the worst LAN any of us have ever been to, and we really want to get back at you, then everyone just throw your key away.
Dean is
Wow.
fucking
Wow, Dean.
no, like imagine them fucking
Swiftly
50
moving
players like
on.
come back to keys like
Swiftly moving on. Yeah.
So,
Don't.
What?
I was just saying.
all right.
Yeah, don't get rid of your keys.
So
I'm gonna
there,
get my key cut so I can always go back to the apartment.
so there's a few questions in the chat as well here towards Alan. Complex was asking, have all the teams paid? And he wants to know who they're playing.
All the teams have paid except for 3 teams. I'm waiting on one more person.
Jake.
I'm not going to name them, Jester.
It's me. It's
but
me.
There's 2 people. There's one for Phelan, one for Cyclone, and
Yeah.
one for Nobody's. And
Interesting.
once they're paid, then I'll get to work on seeding the teams, and I'll set up brackets and stuff like that.
I'll pay soon. I promise.
Wait, actually, last question before we go. What format are we going with?
It'll be double elimination.
Okay.
Just simple 8 teams double elimination bracket.
So
First
loser
rounds will be-
bracket, like.
Yeah, there'll be a losers bracket. Yeah. So first match will be best of 1, and then the rest will be best of 3s.
Okay.
I think
That's pretty good. It seems
we
like
might
everyone
have
will at
we
least
might
get
have
very
enough
good
time
one.
for we might have enough time for best of 3s.
We have another question. Actually, Padge said, when do we have to pay for accommodation? I believe it's the 21st, correct?
Yeah, by the 21st. But the sooner the better, because I've got names to them of who's sent me the sign up forms so far. But they're going to be looking for money soon, so that
How
needs to
many
be all
have
in.
paid so far?
You put me on the spot here. 1 second. Let me open up the
Just,
email.
just a rough estimate. Doesn't have to be exact.
Well, I've probably got about 10 paid, maybe.
Okay, that's more than I expected.
Paul says, will you consider a show match at the end?
Time permitting, but usually time is not on our side with this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because we always have to factor in the time if Figgy brings a dud.
Oh, you just cut out there.
Stuff like that, Oh, am I still there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're there
yeah.
now. Yeah.
All right. Basically, time is not on our side a lot of the time. We have to factor in, delays. There wasn't really that many delays in the last one. I think it was just one power outage, but that was because people had daisy chained their plugs, and that's not going to happen this time.
Any tips for packing your PC a month?
Suitcase, big suitcase, and a quilt. Wrap it around in that. Easy.
Nice.
Can I ask you a quick question? This is kind of going a little bit off course, but are you going to keep One Tap LAN strictly CS:GO, or do you ever think that you'll try and branch out maybe over towards PUBG? You can apply for the private servers and stuff if you do run events like that and stuff. I think Raid are actually maybe done some of those. I'm not sure, but what would you like to just keep a CS, or would you like to branch out?
I think ideally it would be like to grow the thing. You'd need to bring in another game. But again, CS is like my passion of a game, and if I don't play another game myself as much, then I don't know if I'd have the same passion for it. I played a bit of PUBG, but my computer just won't run it properly, so I haven't played it much. But yeah, PUBG, I did look into actually the prices of it, but it's not cheap to get involved in that. And basically, I'm running these LANs at very little profit, so there's no sort of money backing me or anything like that. I'm not prepared to put in a lot of money of my own money to do something like that, and the way I am with 8 teams at the moment. I was going to stretch it to 10 if we could, but I'd have to buy more equipment. But I think 8 teams for the moment is good with CS.
Yeah, 8 is definitely a pretty decent number. But yeah, I guess it can be expensive with PUBG. The amount you'd have to do on spend on the stuff, such as if you want to have a good media, the amount you'd have to spend on the observing and stuff, even. So yeah, definitely be a little bit harder for smaller events to run.
And also,
yeah, you would need to get you'd need to get like you need to have somebody backing you with a bit of money, or have a few people throw in a couple of grand each, that kind of way. It's not going to be something that just one person can run.
Yeah, I've casted a few events for the PUBG, and it's just not esports ready. Like it's not even ready at a high level, and if you're doing it at sort of like a local LAN level, it's going to be a disaster. Right now, you'd have to give it at least a year or so, because that game is so broke. Because basically they don't even have a spectator tool. So the event I was doing, we had an observer and stuff, obviously, but when I was casting the event, we had to do it through Skype screen share, and that is obviously not ideal. So basically, we had to cast through a Skype screen share that had no audio, and it was nearly impossible to actually view the game because it was so pixelated. So PUBG is a really fun game to get into and stuff, but it's just at the minute it's not really viable for like smaller organizations, I would say, to run events for. But if you are looking to get into PUBG, I have a few contacts that could also help out with that, all that sort of stuff, and obviously that'd be pretty cool. But I think we'll open up to the chat now, actually, because there are a few people asking some questions. So if you've got any questions for any of us here on the podcast, let us know. And I assume most of them are going to be towards Alan.
Just here while we're waiting to get some things in, I'm going to say we've got merch, we've got t-shirts, we've got stickers, we've got hats available at the LAN. So if you want to have any of those cool, super cool t-shirts that I have put out on social media, send me £12 per t-shirt. Yeah. That'll confirm what size caps you want. I was looking at the baseball caps as well. I think it's only Knox that's ever said to me, yeah, I want one. So I don't know if I'm going to go buy 10,
I think a few people would be interested.
Which design did you go with for the t-shirts?
Both t-shirts, they're there. Let's see. There's one with like a bar logo with OTL3 on it across the middle, and then there's one. Yeah, go ahead.
Any ones of remember did you ever have the one tap? Just one tap? Did you ever have one of them ones?
I think I did. I think I did post one of those actually before that just said one tap.
Oh, I can actually see that. That's.
But I didn't get much feedback on that one, so I'm going to go with the two that are on screen at the moment.
It doesn't.
And seem to also, we've got stickers up for sale on the day. I'll have like a one tap LAN sticker and then a logo sticker. So stick them on the back of your keyboard, monitors, or whatever you guys do.
You can currently see 3 models on screen. Oh, okay.
Not
even removed.
No, it's only one, Calvin. So I suppose we can go over. There's no questions, so obviously people aren't really into the whole asking questions stuff. So I guess we'll go back to sort of having an overview of every team coming to the event and how we think they're going to perform. We'll do it very quickly, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. I suppose there's only about 5 minutes left until we hit our sort of goal. So we got first team is Figgy's Merry Men. I don't really know if that's the name they're going to be using, but we got obviously Figgy. I believe one of them is VecJail. I think he's called Silent now. I think he rebranded his name. And so how do you guys think this team's going to go? I mean, Figgy and Lands, they usually go absolutely amazing.
Figgy, no.
Yeah, that was an iconic moment from the last one. So how do you guys think this team are going to fare against the likes of... Do you think they'll even have a chance to even take a map away from some of the better teams in this?
Not really, no, unless they're all like just kind of go off. But I don't know how likely that is. I'm pretty sure they have a couple of players who are playing their first LAN, so definitely nerves is going to be a thing. Kind of having some of that inexperience. Sure, Figgy's played a lot of LANs, but has he really got experience from any of those LANs? That's the real question.
Didn't he get knifed at the last LAN, the last one top LAN, there was like a huge moment where he got knifed on stream. That was perfect.
Vibe says he's not nervous. It's different when you actually play.
Yeah. 5, you're like the most
Fair
annoying
enough.
player to play against when you beat
Here's a tip: drink a lot of Monster. It'll help you.
Yeah, helps with the aim. But
Yeah, it really
Someone has
helps
a
you.
heart attack
Your
at LAN.
Parkinson's.
Dean calls his heart attack. So, I mean, we also have Feeling Game in here. Aren't they attending? Stop me if I say anything that these teams aren't attending. But are Feeling attending? I think they are. So we've got a pretty solid lineup there, and there's a few players I haven't actually heard of. I think that's just might be my lack of knowledge in the scene overall. But we've got Tiles. I know him obviously coming into it. Bobby in the boat, and he's a pretty decent player himself. We've got C-Rod, Frizz, and DMN. I have to admit I'm not familiar with a couple of these players, but coming into this one, do you think they have a chance, or do you think that's just one of those teams that'll go for the fun and just to play a LAN event?
But Bobby is a good IGL, as far as I can remember. Him and Tels have been playing together for about 4 years, as far as I know. They have a lot of chemistry. The new lads, I don't think they'll go too far though, because I've just seen them doing a lot of prac on overpass the past few days. So with things like that, you're just going to insta-ban overpass against them,
Mm-hmm.
if you can see that they're like just grinding that map out. The only thing I could say to them would be move on to a different map, or don't be advertising your scrims as well.
I think also there's a little bit of a dark horse we failed to sort of mention is Tobin's team. They've got Chris, Vente, Guinness, and Tobin. It says here on the website, for me at least, to be decided for their 5th, so I'm not 100% sure who their 5th is. But
That's
that is
for me. Cooler, Tobin, Vente, Guinness, and Craze.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cooler.
Or
I was
someone
looking
like
at
Vente.
CSGO.
Yeah, I was looking at the
Vente's
CS:GO
actually
code.
been
Actually.
swapped out.
Has it swapped out for who?
Somebody else. I'm not sure at the moment, but he's got mocks or something, so he can't. He has
Okay.
to swap out for someone.
Oh, I think I remember Tobin mentioned that.
Yeah, UK player.
Plus 0.
Zio, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, he's putting.
I think they have a really good shot.
I think that'll be a solid
Cooler.
one, yeah.
Tobin and Cooler were excellent at the last LAN, I think, and Guinness and Craze were really good too. So, I wasn't sure about them at the last LAN because I didn't think anybody would have anything for Different Gravy. I thought they were gonna just walk it, but like they beat them, and then I think they must have lost to them eventually, maybe in the semis or something like that. But like I was just really impressed with Tobin's team last game.
Yeah, they are looking very good. I mean, Tobin actually is Team Cryptic. I casted an event, Val Online. It's a UK league. I believe no, it's not exactly primarily UK, but a lot of teams in that are from the UK. And I mean, Cryptic actually look very strong, and that's it. I think that's still his main team. I'm not 100% sure if he's still on the team because I haven't exactly been following that league after a while now. But they actually are a pretty good team. So Tobin, he's a good player in his own right, I would say. So yeah, it's good to see this team can actually take a few maps away from teams like Different Gravy, so we don't see it like a boring LAN where it is like the top teams you expect to win, the favorites are gonna win, are just gonna dominate. So it's good to see some of the dark horse teams. Like I would even say your team Cyclone are definitely a team that could get into that top 4, and I'm sure you'll be aiming for at least top 4 in the event.
Yeah, we're definitely aiming for at least top 4. Hoping for better. We're putting the practice in, and I guess we'll see if it pays off.
I think it's going to be really competitive, especially for the top 4. I mean, I know the Different Gravy are not going to want to. They're not going to want to come outside the top 4 anyway. They won the last 2, or they won OTL 2, and like 3 of them were on the winning team from the first one, with Cinder for Riot Gaming. So Ross and Doof. I think Smooney was playing for them too, but no, he wasn't actually, not for the first one. But yeah, they've been winning. They're not going to want to stop winning.
Yeah, and they've actually brought Nox in as well this time around. So be interesting to
Nox
see.
has improved massively as well over the last year or so.
Yeah, he's been playing rather insane. I cast some of his games as well. But yeah, it's good to see some of these teams now. So there's some of the lower teams as well that are coming in with some sort of new players into the scene, which is really good to see. I mean, we're this late into a small sort of CS scene, and we're already seeing some new players come into the event. So obviously a LAN event has taken these players out. They want to play on a LAN, obviously. So we've got new players, which is really good because it rejuvenates the scene. There are young players as well, so keeps it going for a while. I suppose we have like Keto, like Calvin's bringing in a lot of new players into the LAN environment. So we got Liquid, Keto.
Calvin's strange like that. Calvin, I'm pretty sure didn't Calvin find Doof, and then he also found Dial. Like the first teams that they played on properly before getting into the scene was on Calvin's team.
I'm just a gateway.
Claim to fame.
Yeah.
I'm a gateway roster.
He's the Ocean or the Hunden of Ireland.
I'm the equivalent of Wade.
Figgy found Doof? Apparently Figgy found Doof. I don't know, but
I
I remember.
I didn't find Doof. I found Doyle, and I've picked up
Figgy found Cooler as
Figgy
well.
Figgy did not find Cooler. I played with Cooler when I was MG before Figgy ever knew him. We just lost contact. Me and Paj used to play with him. He was Cooler 2K8 then, I think. I think it was Cooler 2K8. No, this was well before Radiant Figgy. This was like late 2014 or something.
Oh yeah, Ivanov and Doof. Ivanov was at the first LAN, wasn't he? He was playing for NSG, I think, as the IGL.
That G6 playing for NSG, yeah, with Cass
he was
and
up
some
with
others.
Stuart spectating the very first one, and I don't think he played the second. Oh, he did play the second one. Of course, he did a bit the
He played
choir.
with Acquire, yeah. Acquire actually a very disappointing team. I mean, they look really. There was a lot of young players. They had a good roster, and then you just kind of all just quit playing CS after that event.
Which one? My roster or the one tap?
No. I'm not counting your team as a team. Calvin.
Yeah, that's fair actually.
I'm talking about the one with Daz, Ivanov, Poxy, Gravity.
Yeah.
It was actually a pretty decent team. They had quite a good performance at One Tap LAN, but I think they only played against Popo and featuring the Wage Slaves, yeah.
DG as well.
DG
16. Oh, yeah, 32-1, is it?
32-1, yeah. This is a story. I think people over there will remember this, but when the game started, they won the knife round, and Ivanov screamed something, and I screamed back. That's the only round you're going to win all series, and I was almost correct. But it wasn't. They won a single round because we threw a 1v3. We all tried to knife Daz, and he upped us all down. But yeah, we almost 16-0'd them back to back, and I'm not going to lie to you, we were barely functioning at that point. We were like high tolerant alcoholics, I think, because somehow we managed to get up after everyone got asleep about 6 o'clock. I think the likes of I think so. The likes of Dara and Martin and Tumman and all came to our apartment and speared Padge out of his room, and Shonders as well. And then Tumman, I believe Tumman it was. I was asleep at this point. I had passed out. Tumman, I believe, sat in at the counter reading the Bible, and like kind of and someone was like standing there screaming back or something, and things like that. I don't know. I think Figgy done it earlier in the day as well. But yeah, it was an interesting LAN.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it
now. So, I mean, you've all played a lot of LANs, Dean, and stuff, but do you think you have this sort of mental advantage over the players that haven't been to LAN, or do you think they're just going to come in and think they're like top pros or whatever just because they're at a LAN event?
I feel it's funny when someone comes in thinking they're top pro and get absolutely shut down. It's very interesting. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. This was online, but Paj plays for a college team for Minute, and there's a lad like on that team. So we scrimmed his college friends. We scrimmed their team, and there was an Irish guy that like he didn't know any of us. He had no one from the group or anything as a friend, and he was saying like he was trash talking because him and Padge played against each other in a pub before. So he came in trash talking, saying Padge is shit and stuff, and you're so bad, and we're gonna wreck you. And then we beat them, I believe, like 16-3 or something. And that guy, just before we were winning, I think it was like 14-3 at the time. That guy left, and they said they're sorry, they can't do anything. So yeah, I think they're actually going to One Tap LAN, and they dropped that guy because he raged away, telling them they're all shit and stuff. So that's just showing you there's a really bad attitude problem in the Irish scene. I think some people need to.
Which roster was this? Like that's going to One Tap?
I don't know. Let me have a look.
It's not Slotty Simplified Keanu.
I think they might have dropped out, but they were originally on the list.
Vortex, was it?
I can't remember what the name of them was.
Yeah, there is a lot of egos and stuff in the city, definitely. But I think that just about wraps up everything we kind of wanted to talk about, I suppose. If anybody has any final points, obviously, or any shout outs, so I'll do. I mean, Alan, one thing before I go, you were saying about the sponsors. You were saying like there likely won't be too many sponsors around this time around. Is there something that happened, or we just?
Yeah. Well, I contacted the the Mince people again. Spoke to T-Pain himself, and unfortunately, he's not going to be. They're not going to be sponsoring any events at the moment. He said it wasn't anything that we did. It was a pure "it's not me, it's you" type of thing. Like, I'm still talking to Sound Blaster to see if we can sort anything out with them, but unfortunately, it looks like there's maybe going to be nothing. But we'll see. I'll see what I can get. There's still going to be a lot of prize money on display and up for grabs, so I wouldn't worry too much about extras.
Yeah.
I also like the way, Alan, you do the you give like the winner a huge chunk of the prize pool instead of like dividing it out over every team. I think that's a good incentive for people to train to get to that top, try and get to that top level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've heard people have said, you should be opening it up to, top 4 teams should be placing, but I don't think that's the way I'm going to go. I don't think I'll ever do that, because you have to reward winners. You don't want to reward people who are just in to get into the top 4. People have to want to win it. And, and if it's a lot of money to win. So if people win that, they have to put the effort in. And that's a thing I think about mixes, like the fact that there's so many mixes, like the Nobodies guys are also individually talented, that they can just mix and come in, and they've got a really like high chance of just wiping the floor with people. But if other people are also high quality players, but they have a little bit more preparation done, I can unseat them big time, because I noticed in the very first one, in the very first LAN, like it was Riot against a mix, and Windansky's mix was on that, and he had some players who had a lot of experience, good players, but like they were undone by like actual team play, if you know what I mean. People were knowing what they were going to do. So it was like, if you can put in the effort, you deserve to win, and you don't need to just to get into the top 4. I mean, it's still a good thing to do, but you shouldn't be getting a share of the money, I don't think. You need something to drive you to be better than just saying, I want to make it to there.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing I agree with fully, because you got those people who just want to do the bare minimum, just attend the LAN, and they'll really not get anything out of it. That's fine if they just want to go there for fun, but if you're there to actually win the LAN and it's kind of like an investment, then yeah, it's good to come out on top with a good bit of cash instead of barely anything. So I think that's a good plan. I mean, Jester, you haven't really talked too much in the last couple of minutes, so I suppose before we end off the stream, we can bring you in a little bit more here. So basically, finishing off on a point, there's kind of a little bit of a thought going through my head. It's not anything that's likely to happen, but it's just a what if scenario. So basically, if those main players like Laney, Windansky, Connor, if the main players on that team went out and separated themselves over a couple of mixes, I mean, they got some of the younger players, they taught them, how to play properly, they brought in some fundamentals. Do you think this would be a good incentive for like some of the younger players to start to come up a little bit more and be a little bit more professional?
Oh yeah, obviously, but there's not going to actually be anyone that would be willing to do that, because it would take a lot of time, and you yourself would basically have to stop playing seriously.
Yeah. That's I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I was just thinking of sort of an idea that would help a few of the players. But I think that's pretty much it. There's nothing really I want to talk about too much more. Is there anything anybody else wants to cover, or we pretty much did everything?
Buy your merchandise, buy your tickets, buy your accommodation, and I'll see you all there.
Boy Calvo points. Just a bit of brainwashing there.
All right, so thanks,
Join
Dean.
the Navy.
Thanks, Dean, Jester, Alan, and Calvin for joining me. I'll be doing the casting at the event as well. I'll be joined by Mitch, man, and Dean's going to hop in for a few of the games as well, which is going to be awesome. And I'm really looking forward to the event. So let's see if most of you guys there are here in the chat. So I'm looking forward to the event, and thanks for tuning into the podcast. I hope we didn't do too bad. I mean, I think we did pretty okay for our first ever podcast together. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and that's pretty much it for now.